Welcome to Thoughtfully Us, the space where three therapists of color sit down to talk about mental health, real life, and the human side of healing. We're colleagues, friends, and licensed therapists. And so in this podcast, we're pulling back the curtain on not just therapy, but on being people of color in this field and on the parts of life we don't always get to process in the therapy room. So whether you're in therapy, thinking about it, or just trying to make sense of your own healing journey, we're so glad you're here. A quick disclaimer is that this podcast is for informational purposes only. It is not a substitute for therapy, medical advice, or diagnosis. Listening to this podcast does not create a therapeutic relationship with any of the hosts. Tease up for Thoughtfully Us.
Hello, everyone.
Hey.
Well, we are on part 2 of our Behind the Mic series. We appreciate everyone's feedback so far of getting to know us individually on a deeper level. Today, we have the honor and privilege to ask questions to Nelly. So, Nelly has picked some great questions, and we also have put in our own that we wanted her to answer and to think thoughtfully about too. So let's dive in. We're going to kind of start similarly to the last segment, kind of looking professionally and then more into the personal too. So, as a therapist, how has your identity shaped the way that you show up in the therapy room?
I feel like there's a lot of things that have kind of about me that shape how I show up in a therapy room, but I feel like the biggest one is I have felt like out of place or misunderstood a lot of my life, and I think a lot of that comes back to being like a first-generation immigrant. And my parents are not like super traditional. So some background for listeners who don't know me, or if I haven't mentioned this before, I'm Indian and my parents immigrated here from India in their 20s. And so my parents weren't like very traditional. I guess I should say like my dad wasn't, my mom was, but like things kind of changed when she came over here, and like her siblings that are over here too are more westernized. And so I like always kind of struggled to fit in because I would feel like too Indian to be American, but then I was like too American to be Indian. So when I would go to like Indian events and like Indian summer camps and things like that, it was a lot of like North Indians and I'm South Indian. And there's sometimes some tensions there. And then like so I was like, okay, I'm like too American for this. And then I go to like American things and people would be like, what? And so I felt very misunderstood growing up. And like I just didn't feel heard a lot of the time because of that. So in therapy, it's like very important for me to make people feel heard and understood. Life moves by so fast. Like I always think about what Morgan said that one episode where she's like, our brains really are not meant to compute like and take in as much as we do. And I think sometimes like therapy is just slowing down and like sitting with a person where they are instead of being like solution focused or problem solving or trying to fix something. Which I feel like in like everyday life, that's kind of what we're always doing. We're like problem solving, moving forward, trying to fix something rather than just being like, oof, this is tough, or this is where we're at right now. So I try and just make like the therapy space really kind of slow down, and that doesn't like work for everyone. Sometimes that's like no therapist is going to be the best fit for everyone. And like clients who do want like more solution focused work, I've transferred out because I'm like, I don't think we're going to be a good fit for each other, because I'm going to like slow things down and explore like themes and patterns and where this is coming from and core beliefs and stories we're telling ourselves. Because I think I do a lot of that because I can see a lot of that with myself too. And that reminds me of like insurance being like, how many more sessions? And it's like, you can't really like, we don't know, right? Like we can't put a timeline. You can't put a timeline on healing. It takes time, and it's something that I don't think you're at a point where you're like, okay, I'm healed.
So what's a moment in your career so far that made you feel really proud or really grounded?
Okay, I have a couple.
Mm-hmm.
I would say one was kind of like running my own team at one of my jobs and creating my own program and then like running that program. But I would say the main one that I'm like most proud of is creating my own practice, starting Healing Awaits.
Mm-hmm.
So I started Healing Awaits because I had worked in like several different places where I just felt like didn't really align with like my values of like the way I practice. And so I was constantly kind of like struggling with that. And then one of my very good colleagues and now friends, Shernavia Miller Hollingsworth, owner of Integrative Healing Journeys, she has experience like with opening her own practice, and she kind of kept giving me that confidence like for years. She's like, Nelly, come on, like you can do this. And I was like, I don't know if I can, like I don't feel like I can. And I would say like even now I still have that like imposter syndrome, but at the time it was like probably one of the riskiest things I've done. Like I kind of stay away from risks, and even if they like have a high reward, I'm like, I'd rather play it safe. And at the time I was like super anxious about it. I also like had a lot of life things going on and was just like, wow, like opening my own business, if I like have a huge drop in my income, what am I going to do? And so it was really scary to do. And like I was reading all these books at the time to like gain confidence around doing it. And after being on my like third self-help book, I was like, you know what? Like I just have to do this. Like either I do it or I don't do it. Like, and I had everything set up. Like I was like, I need to do this. And then like I decided like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to kind of like follow through on my plans. I needed like a much more flexible working environment. And I was like, okay, what better boss to have than myself for that?
Mm-hmm.
I've since realized that I am a horrible boss to myself. I'm very mean to myself. I don't set the best work hours. I have high standards. So in some ways, I'm not the best boss to myself, but having like the flexibility that Healing Awaits gives me is something like I wouldn't trade for anything. And I work really hard to like act in ways that are like align with my values. So like reaches out and I can't, like I don't think we're a right fit, or I have like a wait list, or I don't have their availability. I always make it a point to like find them referrals that are in network with their insurance, just because I know that like as therapists, we have trouble finding other therapists. So like people who aren't in this world are like really struggling. So I just like I'm very proud of and very thankful for Healing Awaits and all that it has done and can continue to do. Very proud of that.
Yeah, so amazing. I remember I remember when the ideas were being floated around of should she do it, should she not. I even have one or two of those self-help books Nelly is talking about on my shelf to be read still. So it's funny, like comes full circle. But the question maybe some of the listeners and viewers have is, where did you get the name for your practice? Like, how did you decide on Healing Awaits?
That's a good question. So my mom was a yoga instructor most of my life. Was an engineer, but then she like always practiced yoga on the side with my dad. And she was like, I genuinely think this could really help people. Again, I think I've talked about this before, but like now yoga is like this very heard of thing. It's like at gyms and everything. But when my mom was doing this when I was a young child, it was like unheard of. Like when I told people she was a yoga instructor, people were like, what's that? Like, what does she do? Does she work at a gym? Like, and a lot of times she was like going and marketing herself to gyms as like, this is something that's really awesome that people are going to like people are going to enjoy this. And so she always like talked a lot about healing. Healing was like a word she was always saying. She always talked about how much trauma like you can store in your body and how important it is to like heal your body. And at the end of her yoga, like her classes, she always had this saying, and she would say something about like breathing in positivity, breathing out negativity, because healing awaits. It was like something like that, but she always said healing awaits. And yeah, I just like always, it's just something I always heard, and like it's something that became like in my head like an inner kind of story I would tell myself. When I would call her really upset, she, would be like, don't worry, like your time's coming, your time awaits, like, and then she'd sometimes be like, healing awaits, or like, this is going to be good, like peace is coming. And so that was like always just stuff she said. So then when I was thinking about names, I was like looking online, and I saw like a couple different words, and then nothing felt like it really could stick the same way. And I was like, I want something just like healing awaits. And I kept telling my partner that.
Yeah.
And he was like, why don't you just do healing awaits? Yes. And so I had some apprehension with it because of a different reason, but I ultimately chose like, this is definitely something I want to do. This is meaningful. And yeah, so like I said, like I'm nervous sometimes with that idea that healing like awaits, because I don't think it's something you can just like kind of check off. So I don't ever mean to say that like you're going to do therapy and like it's going to heal you and that's it. But I do think like healing is something that can be in people's future under like the right circumstances.
Well said. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Well said. We love it. So much.
And yes, I should shout out you both for the support also in creating Healing Awaits. There was a lot of mental breakdown texts in in our chat, along with my other friends. Everyone who has received them knows them, of like, can I do this? I don't know. Everyone was probably tired of me by the end, like, just open it up already. And I'm so grateful. And I'm still terrified half the time. I'm like, when I learned something new, there was just recently a huge insurance change that like impacted providers being paid for months on end. This was all happening while I was like on maternity leave. So I was also having to figure that out. And now I really struggle juggling like being a therapist, being a mom, and being a business owner. But making it work. So
making it work.
Day by day.
Yeah, day by day.
Truly. That might go into, well, first thing, I was smiling and laughing to myself. And if you're watching the recording on YouTube, you'll see me probably smiling because there was a jingle made for Healing Awaits by a cousin of ours that is the history of
unreleased.
One
good reason.
Well, we want to protect our listeners. We love and care about you guys. And if you were to hear this jingle, it might hurt your ears a little bit. But
yeah,
one of the cousins did make a jingle for Healing Awaits. It has not been used for a reason. But listeners, let us know if you really want to hear it. We have options. We can play the jingle, or we can ask and request a live performance.
That'd be fun.
Or we can post it on Instagram. Let us know.
Yeah, let us know. But I was like, this kind of ties in what you were just saying about being juggling motherhood, being a business owner, being a therapist, and just being a human. I think we never asked really. Maybe we should have started with this, Maya and I. But what is your background? Because you mentioned trauma work. But what else are your specialties or your clinical interests in your practice, but also just in the field in general?
Yes, I should have explained that. I am a trauma therapist. I specialize in working with people with a history of experiencing traumatic events or major stressors in their life. I started out working with children, specifically with like a sexual abuse history. I'm then kind of moved on to working with adults who had the same history in childhood, but didn't process that in childhood. And so we're navigating symptoms related to that in their adulthood. And like, I really enjoy working with both of those populations. I've learned so much about resiliency from people, and just like coping. It's been really a journey there. And so I'm certified in trauma focused cognitive behavioral therapy. It's very important to me. I think it's like a really helpful tool for people. And like intervention. And I've seen it work really well with children. It doesn't work well for everyone, but I've seen it work very well with some young kiddos, especially that I've worked with. So that's kind of like where my kind of jam started with. In recent years, about in 2023, so like 2 years ago, I became interested in the perinatal mental health field. And at this time, I was also working with like general traumas, like not just people who had experienced sexual abuse. I was also like working with people who had experienced like all types of traumas, domestic violence, grief. And with that, there's a lot of trauma within like the perinatal mental health world. And so I started working with a couple clients who were postpartum, and through that experience, I was like, whoa, there's like a huge need for like moms or people in the postpartum period, and also like people who are trying to conceive, fertility life. I think I like mentioned this in previous episodes that I myself struggled with infertility. And so when I was like interested in this through my trauma lens, and then I had my own fertility journey, and I was like, whoa, like we need a lot of support here. And through that, I like started creating a course called Navigating the Emotional Journey of Fertility Treatment, because fertility treatment is so time consuming and it's really crazy how much time it really takes up for people. You have appointments like sometimes daily, and it's a lot. And because of that, like I really didn't feel like I had time to like have another like therapy appointment on top of everything else. And I was like, I would love just like support. And this course, obviously it's not therapy, but I just would love support outside of that. And so it's a 4-hour self-paced course, made for people going through fertility treatment. And it's like for anyone at any point in it. It doesn't like specifically talk about IUIs or IVF because I'm not a medical doctor, but like just kind of support around the common challenges with all of that. And then I did my training through Postpartum Support International. And now I'm trained in perinatal mental health. So now I do kind of trauma and perinatal mental health, which kind of go hand in hand together.
Yeah, definitely do.
I love both. So
Yay. Thank you for the recap.
Yep.
And, I think we can always go deeper and dive more into these topics, and even like what it looks like to start your own business or private practice in the clinical. But I will say, like, even when Maya talked in our first segment, now hearing Nelly share, like, I know them and I know the work that they do clearly very well, but I think it's something to be acknowledged that we have two very skilled women of color in this field doing like their niches and specialties, and have done the training and done the work to understand kind of the needs of the populations they serve, because there's not that many of us specifically in, counseling and social work, but in these specific niches like eating disorders, perinatal mental health, trauma. And so it's pretty cool. You guys are witnessing greatness here. So just shout out to them for that.
Oh, you love us, Morgan.
Oh, I know. I was like, someone's gonna say something, and it's gonna.
I know. Do we let her have the moment?
I know. Maya and I are going to be quoting this all week. Like,
Yes.
Morgan, we're skilled therapists. What?
Morgan thinks we're great.
Yay!
Goodness.
But I agree, definitely. And thank you for sharing that. And I think too, like you said, a lot of our topics or interests can be larger conversations. So I think these segments help to make other people aware, like, oh, like Nelly's into this, or maybe I relate to parts of this work that you said, and hopefully stem further conversations too. So thank you for sharing. You kind of answered parts about your identity throughout questions we've asked today and in general, but I think it's always good to just ask anyways. So what part of your identity are you really proud of?
I would say being like a first generation immigrant is like, I feel like that's at the core of everything I do, is like watching like my parents and their experiences, and my brothers too. My oldest brother wasn't born in this country. And so, yeah, like I think my family's immigration story is a huge part of who I am. It's interesting though, because like it's probably not something I talk a ton about, but it does show up in my life, like in basically every single thing that I do. I would say like the biggest thing was honestly like traveling to India. The first time I took my partner there, he was like, everyone should have this experience. Like everyone should know what this is like. And then it occurred to me that not everybody does. And I was like, whoa, that's so weird, because I like spent my childhood traveling across the entire world. Like you cannot go to a farther place. Like it's as far as possible. And that was normal to me. So like I always knew when I lived my life here that life there existed too.
Yeah.
And like a lot of my family is there. I'm very close with my family there. And I feel like that was another like weird kind of situation with my like husband at the time. Like he was at the time he was like, this is so weird because I like know you so well, but I like realized in this moment that like you have this whole other part of your life that I thought I knew about, but like I really didn't seeing you in it. And for me, I was like, well, I didn't know you knew. Like you see me talk to my aunts, like, and my cousins, and like you know about all this stuff. And he's like, yeah, but it's like different seeing you in it. So that was interesting, because that was the first time I got insight into like someone else seeing that part of my life. And for me, it's a given. It's like something I'm like, it's just me. But I realized after that experience that like, oh yeah, I don't really like, that doesn't really transfer over sometimes. So yeah, I think probably being like an immigrant and my parents and like the way I grew up, and traveling back to India, I would say like those things really kind of shaped who I am as a person.
Yeah, makes sense. Like, I'm excited for the day your partner, and your baby all go,
Yes,
and then she
And
gets to.
me.
Oh, yes.
of course.
Maya said, "And me." Yeah,
We
I
have a
want
cousin's trip planned.
Yeah, I need to go.
definitely want to go. We love seeing the world. It's important.
Yeah, it really is.
Okay. Well, this next question's a little deep. Can be. I mean, you can go as deep as you want to, I guess, with the listeners. But what is something you've healed from, or are currently still in the process of healing from?
Oof. Okay. This list is long. I'm like, I feel like there's a lot that I'm constantly like working on, and then some things get better, and then some things spark back up. But right now, I'd say probably the thing that I'm like healing from is the identity shift and like experiences that you have in the postpartum experience. I had read a lot of like books during my pregnancy on postpartum experiences and things like that. And I would say like none of them prepared me for what it actually is like. And I don't know if you can be prepared for what it's like. I texted when I like first had my baby, and I was like maybe 2 weeks postpartum, maybe even less. I like texted moms, like recent moms that I knew and was like, whoa, what is happening? I also I think I mentioned this in previous episodes. I also got a lot of messages from recent moms, and like a lot of them I hadn't spoken to in years or were like acquaintances in like college or grad school. And I was like, wow, it's so nice for them to reach out and be like, this is a really hard time. And then like a week later, I was like, oh, this is why they reached out, because it's like when I texted them and I was like, I'm so sorry I wasn't like there for you when you went through this. They all were like, we had the same experience. Like, no, it's one of those things you just don't know. And like my therapist recently said something that like really sat with me. She was like, it's kind of like asking someone to envision like what's behind a closed door. Like you just don't know until you experience it. And I thought, and like I think that really shook me to my core, because as my two other hosts know, I like to prepare and like plan. And I'm a little type A. By a little, I mean a lot. And so
Self-awareness is key.
thank you, Maya. Thank you. Maya's like, yes, Nelly, keep going, keep going.
It goes on.
But yes, so I like really did plan ahead. Like I like read all these books and like was ready and like had sheets, like paper with like sayings and schedules and all this stuff like printed out for different parts of our house, and like just a whole plan. And with the knowledge too that like, okay, I can't have a plan, the plan has to be flexible. But I really like just had a whole identity shift and experience that I had never saw coming, had no idea what that was going to feel like this. And I say this all the time that like having a baby for me, it's like so beautiful, loving something so much, but that's also been really scary, because I realized that like I kind of have this harder shell to protect myself, but then with this like baby, I can't. Like I don't have that as much, and like she is like she's my everything, and then it feels weird. It almost feels like, you know, my life has just started in some ways, which I didn't expect to feel at all. Like I felt like she was adding to my life, and I had so many views on being a mom before then. I was like, you have to have a life outside your kid, like all of this stuff, and I still agree, but all of those thoughts were so much easier in theory than like actually when it happens. And that really threw me, because I was like, wait, I was not prepared to like feel this way, to have feelings I didn't even know existed in my body. So yes, I would say like I'm still healing from, and finally starting to feel a little bit more like I have my groove of finding myself. I think they like a lot of language has changed. It used to be like about getting back to yourself, and it's like there's no getting back to yourself. Like a lot of people in the perinatal mental health world talk about that like you're not getting back to yourself, because you're not going to be the same person, because your brain like your brain literally changes during pregnancy and postpartum. And so yeah, I am still working through that. Postpartum experience can be years, so I'm like,
That is yours.
don't want to jinx myself.
Mhm.
So I'm like, okay, I don't want to say #healed, because I'm not. But I feel like I have my bearings a little more. But that's the other thing. Like you're caring for a tiny human that's constantly changing. So like today I have my bearings. Like tomorrow, if she's a mess, or like when she gets her tooth or whatever, I'll be in a different place. So just gotta ride these waves.
Yeah. Every day's different.
Yeah. And some days it's a tsunami. And other days we're in like a little wading pool, like chilling.
There you go. No, thank you for answering. And I think that'll resonate with a lot of other listeners and viewers.
Agreed. So much. Well, you did it, and you made it to fun, lighthearted questions. But these are actually we find to be the most serious too at the same time.
We take these very seriously.
Starting with, what is a food that you'll never get tired of?
Okay. So I hope you guys accept this answer, because it's not like a food, but it's kind of a food. So it's like bread and cheese, any version of bread and cheese. So like, is that pizza? Is it a cheese quesadilla? Is it a bagel with cream cheese? Like those.
So you
That
can pick one.
you're gonna make me pick one?
It's like, it's so broad.
She's like, how do I get around this?
Yeah. Okay,
Without-
fine. If I had to pick one,
Yeah.
oh God, this is hard. I would probably say bagels, and everything bagel with cream cheese.
Yes, there you go. That's the answer me and Maya were waiting for.
Yes, it would be that or pizza, but like I am a bagel girl through and through. I have to have bagels. Not, let me clarify this.
Not
Yeah, I was like, make sure you tell people.
Not any bagel, like a New Jersey or New York bagel, and that's it. If you are in Maryland and wondering what that looks like, THB is pretty close.
Yeah.
To Hot Bagels, they're a pretty good bagel. When
Yeah,
I've had my family, like when my family visits, we always get it. Because they're like, oh, this actually does, like, we can consume this.
Yeah.
But I went to college in Pennsylvania, and that's when I discovered that like bagels are not as incredible as they are in New Jersey elsewhere. So, but there did end up being one good bagel place at Penn State. But bagels are a big deal in my life. I definitely don't go a full week or maybe even 3 or 4 days without eating a bagel as one of my meals.
Jersey girl at heart.
Yes.
Yes.
But we're all, I think once you live in New York, or obviously Nelly grew up in New Jersey, but Maya and I and Nelly all lived in New York for like 2 years. Coming back, I can't eat any kind of bagel either.
I think the crazy thing, like there are good bagel places here, but like in New Jersey, bagels are so cheap too. Like you get a good bagel. I think that's the thing about bagels and pizza. Like in New Jersey, you can get like a slice of good pizza, or in New York, and a bagel, like, and they're cheap. It's like not here. You're like paying like sandwich prices for a bagel. That's not even like what? Like
I know.
this does not make sense. A bagel is not a sandwich.
It's
Which
so
Maya does call bagel sandwich. Maya
Ooh.
will call a sausage, egg, and cheese a bagel sandwich, which is cute.
But that's what we call them here. What do you call them up north? Or
It's just a bagel. I
Just a-
guess it would be a breakfast sandwich if anything, but like
Yeah.
it's just a bagel.
but then what do you call a bagel? Just a plain bagel or a bagel with cream cheese?
It's a bagel with cream cheese.
Okay. There was a pause and crickets, but
Yeah.
we'll allow it. We will allow it.
For now.
We will have a bagel debate on a different episode.
We will. We all like everything bagels here, so
We do.
we are united.
Mm.
All right. Food you'll never get tired of. And so our last fun, more lighthearted question for you, which maybe you answered a few episodes ago when we were just doing like random questions at one time. But if you weren't a therapist, what do you think you would be doing right now?
So I actually always wanted to be a lawyer. That was in my that's always what I wanted to be, a criminal justice lawyer. And then I was like, law school? Hell's that? That sounds crazy. And the amount of reading you have to do,
Mhm.
I'm a quick reader, but like
Mhm.
I did not have the grit to do that. That much reading. Even though we also had to read a lot.
Yeah, but it was like not
Interesting.
to know, but
Well, Morgan.
We didn't have to
couldn't
read.
make it through without like in-depthly reading.
I read everything I was supposed to in grad school, and I think I was the only person who did that.
I knew like 2 people that did.
Yeah.
Nelly was one of them. Her partner, now husband, was another. He wasn't even in our program.
Yeah.
Listen, I've talked about before being in an interracial relationship, and there was some stuff that I was like, he needs to read this if we're going to be in a partnership together and you're going to raise a brown baby one day, which my child is not that brown, spoiler alert. but which was a spoiler alert for myself as well. I was shocked. But she's getting there. But he had to read, we were in class together. Not really, but I would get these readings and be like, this is very helpful, and send it to him. And so he did a lot of the readings.
Oh, that's love.
That is true. But actually that's my point. Like I did all the readings because they were very interesting to me, and I think that was the difference. Is like I wouldn't have been as interested like reading stuff about law, but like this stuff I actually enjoyed. So that's how we made our way here. But I would be a lawyer, and people who know me will say that as well, because you don't want to catch yourself in an argument with Nelly.
You'd be a great lawyer. My husband would be too. Like, should have gone to law school.
This is true.
Yeah, but it's nice. But I mean, in social work, you have to know some stuff about the law and politics and all that. So maybe you're kind of living
maybe
in a different way.
You're kind of living your dream.
Yeah, Morgan's like, you're in it right now, Nelly.
Yeah. But with that, do you watch any like lawyer-based or law shows, criminal justice type shows?
Well, almost like all my favorite TV is like criminal justice, and then like Law and Order. But Suits has probably been my newest. But like, I don't know if I'm gonna finish Suits, guys. Like
the early seasons of Suits.
It drops off.
Like, why is okay, listeners, spoiler alert. So turn this off if you don't want to hear this. But like, why is Mike in jail right now?
Oh, you're over there.
Oh,
I watched it, but my husband watched it, so I kind of watched it with him, so I know what you're talking about.
yes, that was a weird season. So.
I don't care. I just, and then when I saw that Meghan Markle leaves, like, I was like, nah. So I haven't finished it.
It's like Grey's Anatomy. It falls off.
Yes.
Suits. Okay. I don't know if there's any. I've seen lawyer shows. Maya probably knows all the new ones.
Of course.
But
For sure.
you should watch this. But yeah. If you guys are watching any criminal justice-y lawyer shows, send them our way. We love that stuff.
Send them our way, especially because we all just finished. Well, me and Maya finished, and Morgan is currently watching that new show, All Her Fault.
Oh, yes.
What an incredible show. I also feel like that show really touched on like the mental load and challenges of being a working mom and like
I agree.
Default parent too, of like you're the one who's has to figure it out and make the changes plan. So I was like, oh, I see us touching on a couple different things here.
That is
I agree.
I love the acting, no, but I do like it so far. The plot and the story. To wrap up Nelly's segment, Nelly, is there anything else you would want us to know about the work you do, or any fun insights to who you are and how that shapes the way you do work and the way you live and things like that?
Not really. I mean, on our Instagram, we posted our dogs once. My dog Rusty is so important to me. I love it to death. That's my soul dog, and yeah, I think I'm sure there's a bunch of things I forgot, but for now, that's where we're at. And let me know if you guys want to hear more about trauma therapy. I know trauma is a huge buzzword right now. It's kind of everywhere, which is, has its pros and cons. But let me know if you want to hear anything more about that, or perinatal mental health, which I also should have like defined as like talking about like conception, like planning, prenatal and like pregnancy and postpartum experience. So a lot of people think that they're like in that, like that you have to wait until you're postpartum, but that's not true.
Right.
Yeah.
Conceiving, as we discussed, is its own experience, unlike the common ideology that you just like touch someone and get pregnant. That is not the case.
Not the case. Not the case.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But thank you guys.
Thank you for sharing.
Of course.
We love it. And hopefully you guys like getting to know each of us a little bit more in depth. So you can now guess that the final and third segment of this lovely series will be Morgan. So stick around for the next episode as well. But we appreciate the space and the openness from Nelly, and hopefully myself too, of answering these questions.
Yes.
Woohoo! All
On
right.
to Morgan. Tease up.
Peace up. Bye, everyone.
Thanks so much for joining us for today's conversation. We hope you felt seen, supported, and maybe even laughed a little along the way. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the podcast so you never miss a new one. And we'd love it if you left us a rating or review. It really helps more people find us. You can also connect with us on Instagram at thoughtfully_us and let us know what you want to hear about next. And remember, while we're therapists, this podcast is not a substitute for therapy. If you're struggling, please reach out for support from a mental health professional in your area. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.